What's going on, everybody? This is Al from PlaybookGamer.com, and today I'm going to do another tier list video. This time I will be ranking every single ace formation in NCAA Football 06. A couple weeks ago, I done one for all of the gun formations in this game, and that went really well. I enjoyed putting it together, and it seemed to help some of you out there. And this is a great way for me to cover broad topics, and that could be of use to you. And for those of you who have never looked at one of my tier list videos, it's just a standard ranking S and then A through F. Anything I put in the S tier is just like, yes, you need to use that, whatever I'm discussing. A and B are really good as well. Then C, D, and F, not so much. So before we get into this, I want to briefly mention, for those of you who are subscribed, those of you who are not, please subscribe if that's your thing. For those of you who are subscribed, make sure you turn on the notifications, hit the bell icon. That way you don't miss anything. I done a live stream a couple days ago, and I had a couple people mention that they didn't get to be a part of it because they didn't have their notifications turned on. So make sure you have those turned on so you don't miss on anything with regards to the channel. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with Ace 4 wide receiver trips. Now, you look at the very top row. This has been a very good formation for me, especially recently with my run-and-shoot dynasty or run-and-shoot offense with Hawaii. And you start at the very top with slot clear out. That's been a base play for me in that offense. It's a good play, attacks all areas of the field. You got a lot of options to attack any type of coverage. Draw's pretty good or under center. PA strike is not bad. It's just a little slow. If you get decent blocking, you can make good plays with it. Slot screen isn't bad either. You're just under center. You got to back up a little bit to throw it and that type of thing. Halfback read is an awful play. Wide receiver corners is just okay. It has some issues, mainly decent man beater type stuff, but it's fine. All hook, I'm not a big fan of. Halfback dive is probably the best run play in the entire formation. PAD post is okay. Option weak, if I'm not mistaken, that's the speed option, so it's really quick. Halfback out is not bad. It's not as good as the one from Gun Trips. Halfback option is a great play. Curl read, I'm loving that more and more. Halfback counter, all the counters in this game are not the best in the world. There's a few that are okay, mainly the counter weaks from like strong and such. I'm not a big fan of halfback angle, halfback screen. Any halfback screen from under center is just doomed to fail because you just don't have a whole lot of time to get it to your halfback because you're under center. Sting is okay. It's pretty much your halfback slam, and PA rollout is pretty good as well. The only downside is you don't have a whole lot of blocking in order to get that ball off. Having said all that, I really like Ace 4 wide receiver trips. The problem is there's just enough plays in there that I don't like in order for me to give it like an amazing ranking, but I would definitely put this as a solid B. There's just enough pass plays in there that I am not a big fan of, but it's a good formation for specific things. If you got, a bunch of receivers and you want to stay under center, have a more vertical run game, that's a great formation to roll with. Okay, let's go to Ace Big. Ace Big, I'll go ahead and tell you I'm not a fan of. I've rarely used it. And you look at the top row here, over, under, just nothing great there. I mean, there's decent zone beaters, but the man beaters not so much. We've already talked about read. It's not a good concept. PAQB boot is not bad. Strong sweep, all the toss plays don't work well in this game. PA toss drag is fine, but normally the play action toss plays in this game are kind of tough. The blocking's a little weird. Weak sweep, it's just another toss play that doesn't work. PA tight end corners, it's okay, but again, your man beaters just aren't the best in the world. And you got flag routes for like your cover zero beaters that are sometimes pretty hard to throw to. Halfback dive is fine. Flanker dig, again, it's just okay. I don't know. It's not really special. Tight end wheels, I like the spacing of the routes. Halfback draws is just, it's fine. Halfback streak, I'm not a fan of either. Again, it's tough to attack man with that. Tight end check, again, there's no solid man beater you can really rely on. Halfback counter, we've already talked about the counters. Same with halfback screen. Option strong is fine. Tight end seams is okay, and speed option is pretty good. With Ace Big, you got 2 tight ends, and technically you got 3 tight ends, but one thing you can do is put a fullback at the halfback, or the, not the halfback, but the H-back position on the far left. So you can mix and match your personnel a little bit. But if you notice the theme, as I was talking about this formation, was I don't like this play. I don't like this play. I don't like this play. So, having said all that, I've struggled to make this formation work. Even if I had 3 strong tight ends, I don't know if I would use this formation much just because there's just not a good enough pass plays. And it doesn't even have halfback slam in it. So, having said all that, I'm going to have to put this as a D tier. Maybe if I work with it long enough, I can make some of it work a little bit better. But I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Okay, ace big tight end wide receiver, one of my favorite formations in the entire game. I've used this for goal line purposes, but it's got a lot of cool things to go with it, so let's break it all down. Slam is great. PA tight end choice, I like it pretty well too. Halfback option's good. Tight end corner, that's one of the few, when you got, I call it the Z receiver on the far right, that little whip route. If you're on the right hash, that's good against man or zone. So if you just want a pass play where you're pretty much guaranteed to give it to one guy regardless of the defense, that's a good one to go with. Strong toss, we talked about the tosses, they're awful. Curl flat, it's been a staple. It's one of the better curl flat concepts / plays in the entire game. Dive is great. PA seam is okay. It's not the best against zone. Counter trap, that's actually not too bad. If I'm not mistaken, I think that pulling guard pulls a little quicker. But one of the things I like about it is your second tight end / H-back pulls to that side as well if you run to the left. It's a nifty little play. I probably need to use it more. Option weak, if I'm not mistaken, that is the speed option in the formation. Flanker quick screen, it's good if you can get the ball off quick enough. Halfback read, it's awful. Counter trap is awful. Tight end read, it's not bad. I wish it would go deep a little bit more, spacing out some, but it's not bad at all. You can really, it's a good little West Coast play. Halfback draw is pretty good. PA rollout is okay. There's a couple of routes I would change up. Blast, it's really no different than slam in a sense, but it's a good play. And then tight end angle isn't too bad either. I'll be honest, this is, like I said, it's one of my favorite formations in the entire game. It's good for goal line. It's good if you got a couple tight ends that get things going. You can also use the fullback sub package to put him in H-back. There's just a lot of cool things you could do with this. Having said all that, I would definitely put this as an S tier. I think it is as good as a formation as you can ask for being under center, and I like the vast majority of the plays in it. Definitely a big fan of it. Next up, we got Ace Big Twins. This is the sister of Ace Big tight end wide receiver. You just got the other Z receiver to the left right beside the X receiver. Halfback option is great. Ace arrow is unique. The arrow route works pretty decent in this game. Triple wide receiver options, one of the few wide receiver option plays in the entire game. Is pretty good. Tight end dump would be really good if it didn't have the glitchy delay. If you've ever used it before, you snap the ball and the icon doesn't pop up for like an extra half a second. It's just kind of weird. It throws off your timing a little bit. Otherwise, the spacing of the routes is good. Toss is awful. PA tight end screen. This is like the one play in the game that I wish would work, but I just can never get it to work. I love the idea of having a screen to a tight end, but the blocking's awful. I've always struggled to make that work. Slam is really good. PA rollout is not bad either. Halfback read is awful. Cross is one of the few curl flat concepts where your top 2 wide receivers are guaranteed to get the ball, without using sub packages and other formations. That's one of the reasons why I like about it. Unfortunately, your 2 tight ends are kind of useless in what they're doing right there. Halfback dive is good. PA seam is really good. That tight end on the go routes against cover 0, sometimes he can get like 20 yards wide open. It's a really good play. Post cross is good. It's a nice little rollout concept. Counter's bad. Tight end drag is not bad if your tight end on the drag can release a little quicker and not get bogged down by a defender or a teammate, which can happen. PA flat choice, it's no different than the PA flat choice from Ace Big tight end wide receiver. You just got the Z receiver over on the left. It's a great play. I've used it a ton in some of my more pro-style type offenses. Draw's fine, and halfback screen, it's tough because you're under center. It's an amazing formation. I like Ace Big tight end wide receiver just a little bit better because I think it's got maybe 1 or 2 extra plays that I like more. But Ace Big Twins is a big hit for me. I always go back and forth between the two depending on the offense that I'm running at the time. Having said all that, I'll definitely put this as an A tier. I kind of struggled with this one. I almost wanted to put it as an S tier, but I thought Ace Big tight end wide receiver was just a little bit better. And I wish there was a couple extra decent, more pass plays in this one. But otherwise, it's an amazing formation. I highly recommend it. Next up, we have Ace Bunch. Ace Bunch has been one that I've really struggled to make work. A lot of it's just certain plays just don't work really well, but we'll go through every one of them. Fade delay is probably my favorite pass play of the bunch. I like it. The slant from the technically square by looking at the image, the wide receiver on the left, that's a killer man beater. You got a couple decent zone beaters, and you can actually work this off either hash. It's not bad. The spacing is pretty good. Like I said, it's probably my favorite of the bunch in the formation. Slam is great. PA rollout, it looks like a Sean McVay type of play action. I like the idea of it. It's just missing a couple things. It probably needs maybe one more route, like maybe that tight end needs to go out on the flat or something. But otherwise, it's a pretty decent PA rollout. Halfback draw is pretty good. Backside post, if that drag route or a little dig was like a more of a drag and quicker, it would work a little bit better. It's not a bad play. It's okay. Wide receiver toss, unfortunately, doesn't work well at all. The blocking's bad, and I've really struggled to make that work. Not a big fan of linebacker bait. There's too many routes that are close to each other. Just not good enough spacing. Dive is really good. I really like the two. Now, this is a 4 wide receiver set, but you can switch that with a tight end if you needed to. But if you notice the two blockers blocking inward, I like that. It's just a little bit different way of blocking. You can pick up some yards, again, if the blocking is there. Corner flat, it's okay. It's decent against zone. You can work off either hash, but it's not the best against man. Out and up, it's just okay. By looking at it, you may be able to do something with it, like in the middle of the field, but I was never really a big fan of it. Toss is bad. PA toss cross, it's no different than any other play action toss play in the game. They just struggle to block correctly for you. Double outs drag, it looks okay. The only downside is you would think it's got decent man beaters, but it really doesn't. It's just the way the formation is set up. It's okay. I could probably make it work a little bit better. I wish the spacing was a little bit better. And that swing route by the halfback, it's not that useful when there's nobody over there to distract that corner for that halfback to go up the field, so it's kind of a useless zone beater. But it's not a bad play if you use it in certain situations. Halfback counter, it's just not all that great. Vertical, I wish it would work better, but that drag route is a little slow. It needs to be quicker for that to be a decent play. Otherwise, it's not bad. I wish I had a better man beater to go with it. Safety divide is kind of the same way. That drag route's not the quickest in the world. And most drag routes in this game usually are better against zone than man. Weak toss, this is one of the few toss plays that actually works okay. The reason why it does is if you notice, there's nobody pulling. Everybody's just doing a straight man blocking type situation. And you can get decent yards from it. It's a little bit better than the other toss plays, but don't expect magic to come from it, though. Smash read is okay. Sometimes it's tough to attack zone with it. You would think that R1, that little out route, would be decent against zone if you're going to run this off the right hash. But it's not bad. The only problem is, if you notice, there's just a lot of plays I was just like, it's okay. Kind of no different than Ace Big. Because of that, I've tried to make this formation work better, and I probably can if I put more effort into it. But I have no choice to put this as a D tier. There's just not enough there for me to get excited about it. I could almost put it as a C, but I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of it. That's one thing I do need to practice on, though. Maybe I can make some of these plays work if I put in the effort. All right, next up we got Ace Empty. I've been using this a little bit in my Hawaii Dynasty. There's some really good pass plays. Let's go through it. Deep fade, one of the better pass plays, honestly, in the game if you just go by route spacing and such. All 5 routes are incredible. The problem is with this, this is technically a 10 personnel formation. Your halfback is to the offset of the right tackle. So when you got speed option, you try to use that, it's tough. I wish it would work a little bit better, but this formation is not really meant to run the ball from. Flat combo, if you like to curl flat, that's got everything you want there. I'm not a fan of skinny post. Halfback corners, okay. It's got a bit of a run and shoot feel to it. Crosses is okay. It works a little bit better on the right hash because you got a drag for your zone beater than a man beater. It's usually good for the crossing route. The problem is you got a couple other routes that don't become as useful since you have it on the right hash. It's not a bad play. Slot hitches is not all that great against man. QB draw is not bad. A lot of the QB draws in this game work fairly decent. Slot corners, it's just okay. It's kind of tough to attack man with it. Post flares, I'm not a fan of it. Halfback bubble screen, like any other under center screen, you better get it off quick or you're going to get sacked. I love wide receiver outs. It's one of the better man beating plays in the game. Just all 5 of them are killer. The little whip route, the R1, if you move over to the left, if you're on the left hash, you can make that a decent zone beater. That's a good audible play in my eyes. Cross seams, not bad either. The spacing is pretty good. You kind of, your best man beater is technically that crossing route. You kind of need to get it off quick, just depending on the defense. But it's not a bad play. One of my favorite in the formation. Halfback option, again, it's just the run plays in this formation aren't the best in the world. Tunnel screens, I've tried to make it work and I can't. Out attack is not bad. You got to remember, you're under center and you have like only 5 guys blocking for you. So you better hope you get good protection, because if you notice, all of the routes are fairly deep. So it takes a little while for them to develop. Twin slants, I can never make it work. It's been tough. There's not a good enough zone beater. I wish if that delay was a basic flat, it may be a little bit different. But sometimes that delay route gets bogged down, he gets thrown to the ground, then you kind of lose all hope. Then safety to line, I'm not a big fan of. There's just not enough there. That drag route doesn't come over quick enough for you to have a decent zone beater. And the only good man beater you really have is probably that corner route on the left. It's just a tough play. Having said all that, there's enough passing plays that I kind of like that I can throw in there for certain offenses. Kind of like what I'm doing with the run and shoot. But it's got a lot of misses as well. Having said all that, I'd probably put this as a C tier. It's not a terrible formation. It's got some good stuff in it, but you kind of have to know what to expect when you use this formation. All right, ace normal. Maybe the most popular ace formation in the entire game. I like the balanced look of it, the mirrored concept of the formation. And this is a lot like gun normal. It's got its own unique plays that you just can't find anywhere else in the game. So let's go through it. Halfback dive is great. Safety attack, this is one of the staples of my parachute offense. A great play. Wide receiver reverse, unfortunately, is awful. I wish it would work better, but it doesn't. Halfback pass, you can, if you go back, I'm pretty sure it's on the channel. I have a trick play video that I done several years ago where I talked about halfback pass. You can actually make that work halfway decent. It's not a terrible play. Halfback toss, it's awful. Tight end crosses, this is one of the other plays I wish I could make work better, but it's kind of tough against zone. You got that backside post that can technically attack any zone coverage, but it's just not the best in the world. And the crossing routes, you better have some good tight ends that are quick enough to get past each other to be decent man beaters. But otherwise, it's not a bad play. That would be a good audible play for me. Slam is good. PA rollout, one of the best in the game. Draw is good. Halfback screen, I would ignore. Tackle is okay. It's a little slow. By the time he gets the ball, he may get stuffed. PA strike, it can be very deadly against man. You can attack zone with it too. It's just very slow coming off the play action. There's a good chance you may get sacked because of it. Counter trap is awful. PA counter's not bad either. If you get decent blocking, I like the backside post. You got to dig, and that corner rout's not bad against man. Halfback read is awful. Halfback option is incredible. Tight end streak, this is one of my other base plays in my parachute offense. And then you got speed option. Maybe the best speed option play in the entire game, because you got 2 at tight ends that can block the edge for you. It's an incredible formation, and it has its own, again, unique things. There's no type of plays in the game like tight end streaks and safety attack that can do what they do, and they are only an ace normal. I would definitely put this as an S tier. I love the formation. It's been a part of my NCAA 06 life for so long. I highly recommend it. Next up, we'll go to ace slot. This may be, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I've used it so much, but you'd be surprised by where I'm going to rank this thing. But let's just go right through it. PA rollout is great. It's really no different than the one from ace normal, but there's a couple of the formations that have switched. Slam is great. Halfback screen, again, it's tough to use under center. Strong is awful. QB screen, it's like a halfback pass in ace normal. You can kind of make that work if you maneuver a couple guys here and there. Halfback draws, not bad. Flanker middle, I wish it would work a little bit better against zone. You don't have a whole lot of options there, but it's not bad. Halfback sting's pretty good. Curl flats, I've used that a ton, especially in 07. but we're talking about '06 here. Option strong is great. I love quick slants. It's a great little West Coast concept. Option weak, I'm pretty sure that is the speed option version. Slot seam, I've struggled to make that work. It's pretty good against man, not so much against zone. Counter trap, it's awful. Deep outs, been one of my staple third long plays forever. I've always enjoyed running it. I like the little stick route by the tight end. It just makes it a little bit more unique, and it works perfectly with that post, especially against zone. Halfback out is okay. It's not as good as PE rollout, though. Halfback dive is great. And seamers, if that slot route or the X receiver, the receiver on the far left, would do like an out route or some type of decent man beater, you would have an amazing play right there. Pretty much like deep attack out of gun spread. It's an amazing formation. There's a couple things I wish would be better. That's why I have to put this as an A tier. It's an incredible formation. I love it. But if there was a couple of these pass plays that were just a little bit better, I would probably put it as an S tier. But I highly recommend it. I love the balance of it. I also like the sub package you can use. You can go with two tight ends. Put your number one tight end in the slot, your backup at the normal tight end spot. And it's just really cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. I like it a lot. Okay, next up we got ace spread. This is maybe the second or third most popular ace formation in the game. You see me use it all the time in my run and shoot offense, so we'll go through it. Halfback option is great. Safety draw, I'm not a big fan of. It's just the smash concept with the hitch and the flag. It's okay in '06, but not the best. And this play is just okay against man. It's not bad against zone. Halfback counter, it's just your typical counter, doesn't work well. QB draw works pretty good. Triangle is probably the best pass play in the formation. Counter option, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the speed option. It's been a while since I've used it, but I'm pretty sure that's the speed option version. Slot crosses, I use that quite a bit in my fun and gun offense in the UNLV dynasty. It works okay. It's not bad. It takes some time to develop a lot of the routes, though. That's the only downside to it. Halfback slam is great. It's probably the best run play in the formation outside of maybe dive. Corners, it's really unique. You got double drags going crossing each other, and it's not bad, but it's not the best play in the world. It just kind of depends on what offense I want to run. I probably need to use it a little bit more in my run and shoot dynasty, though. PA fake toss, I'm not a big fan of it. It's a PA toss concept that struggles to work consistently in the game. Halfback toss, stay away from it. Cross, I like it because I get the motion around a couple of guys. It's not the greatest against zone. It's amazing against man. PA dive is not bad. It's play action. It could get kind of tough, but the biggest problem is it's kind of tough to attack man with it, especially underneath. You got the little zig out route that's okay, but just don't expect too much magic from it. Halfback dive is great. Probably the best run play in the formation. Curl flats is your typical curl flat. The best thing about it is the corner route, or the angle route, I should say, with the halfback. It's great cover or a center beater. It's actually decent against man, too. Quick slants is really good. It's a good little West Coast concept. Only downside is the halfback is doing a swing, which takes him a little bit to get a little more open compared to like a flare route. If that was a flare route, that would be an amazing play. On top of if like the square slant route was like a go, that would be an even more amazing play. Halfback draw, not bad. I probably need to use it more with my run and shoot offense. And halfback clear out, it's just not as good as the triangle. This is a great formation. Everybody likes to go the 4 wide. It spreads out. It's balanced. You got a 2x2 set. It's got enough good pass plays. There's some I wish were a little bit better. So it may surprise you that I would put this as a B tier. I can almost say it's an A, but there's just enough pass plays. I can call, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least 5 pass plays I don't like. I can't put a formation as an A tier if over half of the pass plays I'm just not a big fan of. But they got some really good stuff to go with it too. That's why I'd put it as a B tier. Next up, we got ace tight. This is another formation I don't use a whole lot. I've struggled to make some of the pass plays work. But we'll go through it. Under drags is not bad. It's the drag routes. You just got to hope they work okay. There's just not a good enough man beaters there. I mean, the drags can be okay against man, but they're not as good as like an out route or even a dig. And you got a dig right there. The problem is there's a lot of routes that are like going crossing each other, and it can get very congested depending on what the defense is doing. Halfback option is great, especially since you got a tight look. Wide receiver corner, that drag, you just got to hope it gets over quick enough to be a decent zone beater. Wide receiver cross, I was never a fan of. That would be like a pure rollout situation for me if I used it. QB draw's not bad. Wide receiver under, you just got to, some of these drags aren't the fastest either. It's just weird. Not every drag in this game is the same in terms of the speed coming off the line and such. And I think that one is a slower drag to go with it. Otherwise, it looks really cool. I like the spacing of the routes. Just probably another play I need to practice a little bit more on. I'm not a fan of curl cross. The spacing's awful, and the curls in this game aren't the best in the world. Halfback counter, awful. Halfback angle is not bad. I mean, it's really no different than one from ace spread, but it's just a tad bit different in who is doing what in terms of the routes. It's a good little spacing format or play, though. Halfback seam, it's not very good against man. If that little out route was a better out route, that's like a slant out. I want a pure out. So you may have to do a hot route to make that a little bit better. But otherwise, you can do some damage with it. Sting is pretty good. PA rollout, I like it pretty well. Halfback corner is okay. It's not the best against zone. Halfback dive is good. PA dive, again, you got to hope. The man beater is you got the dig over the middle. The flag is about useless. The only thing it can do is distract what's underneath for the whip route. And you got a little wheel route for a cover zero beater. So it's not bad, but again, it's play action. You just got to be leery of you may be getting sacked. Wide receiver clearouts isn't bad as long as that halfback doesn't get stuck between the tackles. Otherwise, that's a very good zone beater. And, of course, you got man beaters galore throughout. Not a bad play. Halfback toss is awful. And then you got another PA toss that I'm just never a big fan of. So, having said all that, I had to put ace tight as a C tier. I could probably move that up to a B if I used it more. The problem is just some of these drag routes, if a lot of them were fast enough, then I think you could do some damage. You could do some, I hate to say the Sean McVay type stuff where you got a bunched under center stuff. I wish there was more play action in it. There's only, there's technically 3 play actions, but only one of them works halfway decent. I probably can make this formation work better. One thing I've tried to do, and I may do this in a future dynasty, is try to do an under center compressed offense, sort of like Sean McVay, what he does. I just love that offense. And this would be a staple formation. You can do double tight ends like you can at a gun tight, but you can't use 11 personnel. I wish you could, but you can't. But I'm okay with putting it as a C tier. If it comes out a little bit better and I was able to practice it more, I could definitely probably put it as a B. But for now, I feel like I have to put it as a C tier. Ace trips. This is one of the formations that I wish I could make work better, but it's been a struggle. A lot of it just due to the spacing of routes and such. But we'll start with counter trap. It's awful. Halfback screen, again, it's under center screen. They're just tough to work with. Same with toss weak. Tight end drag isn't bad if your tight end can get underneath quick enough to be a decent zone beater. Otherwise, it's kind of tough. Halfback draw is not bad. Wide receiver shovel, it looks cool, but I've struggled to make it work. I fooled around with moving guys around and such. It's just been tough for me to make that thing work. Slot corner is not all that great against zone. I wish the square little out route would be a decent zone beater on the left. That way you got a great flare route with a halfback against man, but it's just tough. It's a great man beater, though. Not so much against zone, unless you tweak it some. Halfback blast is pretty good. PA rollout, I wish the go and the drag were flipped. That way the drag route would have a little less time to have to come over there to the right to be a decent zone beater. Otherwise, it would be a decent play. Dive is great. PA tight end corner, one of the few go post play action concepts in the game. It's not bad. I like the spacing of the routes. Toss is awful. Quick flats. I wish that little out route by triangle would work better, but the defense does a good job of covering it, man or zone. Counter option, I'm pretty sure that's the speed option. It may be a standard. Sometimes it's not. But it's your typical option. It works pretty well. Stretch, I like it pretty well. It's different. You got a swing with a go post on the backside, and then you got a comeback to the left of it. It's a different setup. It looks like a play that Joe Tiller would use when Drew Brees was, playing at Purdue and such. That type of offense. Halfback option is great. Mid attack is really good, and halfback sting's pretty good. The problem with ace trips, there was just enough pass plays that I just did not like. I could see 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 4 that are just okay. That's why I had to put this as a C tier. Just if a couple of these routes were switched or moved around or changed up just a little bit, I can make a lot of these plays work really well. Then you'd have something pretty cool to work with. But for now, I feel like I have no choice but to put it as a C tier. Next, we'll go to ace twins. I wish this was another formation that would work well, but it's just been a struggle for me. Tight end wheel, it's okay. It just, I don't know, the man and zone beaters just aren't that great. I wish a couple of the routes were switched up a little bit. Slam is great. PA rollout, it's kind of tough. It'd be great if like square was like a go route, you can move over to the right. A delay, I'm not a big fan of delay routes being my main zone beater. It's just okay. Counter trap is awful. Corners would be okay if your halfback was running a pure flare route, but he's running some, I don't know what you call it. By the time he gets to the right tackle, he just goes straight up the field. It's a weird route. It's tough against man. Yes, you got a little dig route by your number 2 tight end, but you have no clue if somebody's going to sit there waiting on him. The double team. It's a tough play to work with. Halfback draw is fine. Counter option's fine. Tight end drag. That's one of the better drags by a tight end in the game. It's pretty quick. Last time I remember practicing it some. Toss is awful. Read is awful. Tight end seams I'm not a fan of either. Just the man beaters are not great. And your 3 deep routes are all way too close to each other. So the spacing of the routes is just not very good. Wide receiver reverse, it's no different than the one from ace normal. It just doesn't work well. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Cross in, not the best man beaters. One thing you may be able to do is play on the left hash, motion L1 over to the right to become an out route. Then you may have something there, so it's not awful. Halfback dive's really good. PA tight end crosses, this is a unique play. I really like it because you can really do some serious damage from the tight end on the right crossing over to the left. If you know, this is sort of like a Lincoln Riley type of play to where he has a crossing route go from one side to the other, but he has other crossing routes on the other side trying to like do pick action to where that crossing route can get wide open at times. So sometimes, depending on the defense and the right guys bumping into each other, that tight end can get wide open. It's a play worth practicing, I'll say that. Tight end flag is not bad. You got a little zone beater with a little hitch, and at least you got a swing that's better than that one thing we saw earlier with corners. I wish it was a flare route, though. Halfback option is really good, and halfback screen, as we know, is awful. If some of these pass plays were better, I would put this as a higher tier, but it's just been a struggle for me. I can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 pass plays I just don't like. Then you got some plays in here, counter and toss and reverse, that just don't work all that well. Because of that, I have to put it as a D tier. You could probably massage it a little bit and make it a C tier, but I've just never been a fan of it, unfortunately. You can make a couple things work. There's a couple decent plays in it, but it's not enough for me to try to make an entire offense out of it, at least. You can almost put it as a C if you feel like it. It's a C or a D. All right, ace wide trips. I like this formation. It's not bad. It's a little different. Tight end corner, it's no different than that one at an ace, big tight end wide receiver. When you get that whip route at Z receiver to where you can give it to him against man or zone. So that's nice if you just got to give it to like one of your best receivers. Sting is good. PA boot right would probably be better if that post was a go, but it's not bad. Option weak, I'm pretty sure it's a speed option. Wide receiver reverse pass is awful. You'll get sacked pretty much every time. Toss is awful. Quick post is awful. Dive is great. PA deep post is okay. Not the best against man. Counter trap is awful. Flanker post is one of the better third and long plays in the game, at least from under center. The go post, then you got the corner route on the left to distract that free safety. You can really attack safeties with that play. Draw is fine. Cross in, it's one of the few drag routes by a tight end that's really quick. That's why I like it. And the spacing is pretty good. Read is awful. Curl flat is incredible. All 5 routes are just amazing. Especially, it's one of the few curl flat concepts to where you got to post right beside the curl, where sometimes you can distract guys enough to where that curl route could be wide open against zone. It kind of works the same as the one in ace big tight end wide receiver. So if you try playing that, using that play against zone, you'd be surprised by how open that curl can get. It doesn't get open all the time though. Flanker quick screen, if you can get the ball off quick enough, it's not bad. How option strongest, great. And then slot wheel, it's not the best against man. I wish it was, but it's okay. Ace wide trips, I like it pretty good. There's enough good stuff in there that I would use it pretty often. There's some plays I'm not a big fan of. I would definitely put this at least at a B tier. I'm definitely okay with that. I like the 11 personnel. You can also have 2 tight ends out there via a sub package. You can put your top tight end in the slot. So that's pretty cool to go with that. Last but not least is no back. This is technically not an ace formation, but I had to put this somewhere. It's kind of in its own, a no man's land in terms of formation groupings. But it's under center, and we'll just go ahead and rank this one as well. I don't like it as much as ace empty, but it's got some decent pass plays. As you can tell, there's literally only one run play, which is to be expected. You know, you got 5 wide receivers. But in and out, not bad. 2 zig whip routes. The wheel route, I wish it was a little bit quicker. But I like the spacing of everything. That's not bad. QB draw, you can make that work. Inside hitches, I'm not a fan of. The spacing, I think, of everything is terrible. There's a couple routes I'm not a fan of. Mid-strike, I like pretty well. I love the little screen / hitch by Square with a slot running the go-round. That's a lot of Josh Heupel type, veer and shoot type stuff. I love that combination. I wish there was more of it in the game, but there isn't. And then you got that humongous slant by R1 going inward. That's a really cool center beater. It's good against man as long as there's nobody over the middle sitting there waiting on it as well. Wide receiver screen, it's not bad because you don't have any pulling linemen, so you don't have to worry too much about getting sacked. And you got a backside go post to go with it. It's not bad. Wheelies, it's just okay. The drag route takes too long to get over to the other side, and it's not the best against man. Arrows, it's tough. It's very bad against zone. At least I have a safety or a simple zone beater to the short side. Curl flats, it's your typical curl flat. Wide receiver streak, I like the route spacing of it. Go post with a drag underneath and another go on the backside. All that looks really good. PA rollout, the flood concepts in this game don't work as good as you think it would. And, I mean, this plays okay. I think the spacing isn't the best in the world on the routes. Split end corners, not bad. I like the spacing of it. You can run it off either hash. I kind of like the looks of it. Wide receiver under, it's just okay. Deep post, I'm not a big fan of it. Just it doesn't really do good against man. And that drag route, if I remember correctly, it's not the fastest in the world. Tunnel screen is awful. I can never get those guys open. Slot corners, I'm not a big fan of the flag routes unless you got a great quarterback. The zip or the whip in, whatever you want, the zig in, is just okay against man. It's just an okay play, nothing special. Slot drag, I like the spacing for the most part. I would probably use that on the right hash if that drag was quick enough, and I think it is. It's just been a while since I've used it. Outer loop is just okay. I'm not a big fan of some of the man beaters. Then wide receiver outs, that's a perfect audible play for me. You got killer man beaters across the board, but it's not all that great against zone. Having said all that, there's enough pass plays. If you want to go 5 wide and really, zip that ball around all day, there's enough pass plays in this formation to do damage with. I would still put this as a C tier because there's enough pass plays that I don't like either. But it's not terrible by any means. I mean, you can do damage with it. Okay, just a quick recap. My 2 favorite are ace big tight end wide receiver and ace normal. It's your 2 12 personnel sets that you can do so much damage with. I like them a whole lot. Then you go to the A tier, another 12 personnel set with ace big twins. A lot of good stuff in it. Then you got ace slot. Probably my favorite 11 personnel formation in the game outside of, I don't know, maybe gun normal or... I'd probably say ace slot's probably my favorite of the bunch. Ace 4 wide receiver trips and ace spread. It's good under center run and shoot type stuff. Or if you're going to do the one back, Ryan Leaf, Washington State type stuff, you can run a complete offense with those 2. Heck, I'm kind of doing that now with my run and shoot dynasty. They're good good formations. I wish they had some better plays in it to be an A tier, but they're still really solid. Ace wide trips, I like it. I wish there was a few more better plays in it, but it's solid. Then you get to just the okay formations. Ace empty, ace tight, trips, and no back. The C tier, those are the formations I would like to try to work a little bit more with, especially ace tight. I'd like to try to fool with that a little bit more. I just need to practice it some, and it could maybe be a B tier down the road. And then your D tier, it's the 3 formations I've just really struggled to make work: big, bunch, and twins. It's just going to take a lot of massaging for me to like it, and I'm not a big fan of hot routing 2 or 3 different guys to make it work, because I like using home field advantage. I like having it turned on. I think it provides a cool, unique feature to the game, and I don't want to rely on hot routes and audibles all the time as the base of my offense. And plus, there's just not many good pass plays in those formations. But if you work with them hard enough, that's one thing I've learned playing this game. If you practice enough, you could probably make any of these things work. All right, hopefully that was useful to you. I look forward to making more of these, and I'll talk to you later.